I'm happy to get back to work. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's probably a bit similar to the players and with the commentators and the broadcasters. You're like looking at ways to stay sharp. I mean, I feel like we're just watching, as we record this, the England and West Indies series is being played out, and it's like it doesn't feel real. It doesn't quite feel like it's actually like it matters or it counts or something. And like, I wonder how hard you reckon it would be, BJ, for the players especially to sort of focus on training and trying to be their best when they have no idea when they're going to play again, if they're going to play again, if there's going to be crowds there, what the rules are going to be with the ball, like all this stuff. Do you reckon it'd be really hard to focus on, the future games, I suppose?
I reckon it would be. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for guys like, Stephen Smith and David Warner. I mean, they had a year out of the game. They come back to play a season and they've got basically another year out. Yeah. So that's been difficult. I reckon as a professional sportsman, I mean, you've seen it with the rugby league and the AFL, they're getting back to it, so that's quite good. But, as a professional sport, you like to get out and play. Mm-hmm. And suddenly when you're locked down and you're sitting around for 4 or 5 months not doing anything and probably even further not knowing when you're going to work next, I mean, I think that's a bit daunting because, you're so used to being on the road, you're so used to having so much stuff on. And yes, cricketers and sportsmen will always turn around and go, I like to break here and I like to have to get away. But you can't get away, you can't break, you can't do anything. And then all of a sudden you're locked in for 4 or 5 months, you won't be used to it. So
exactly, yeah.
It's like going to boarding school. So I think it'll be really tough. I mean, I watched the West Indies and the England Test match, and I actually couldn't get into it. I mean, I watched it for a little bit. I actually like the 86-87 West Indies, Australia, the MCG, those old games that are be coming up on Fox. I'm loving that. They got cracking crowds. Yeah. It's good cricket. It's, the West Indies, the sort of one with Viv and Ambrose was playing, and, that was amazing. And then all of a sudden you switch on to live cricket, West Indies and England, and you go, mate, it's not even in the same league. So it's difficult. It's tricky, and we're going to have to get used to it. I can't see us having big crowds. Maybe in Sydney and Melbourne for the start of the Big Bash in December. I think Perth and Adelaide and Brisbane will get crowds, but outside of that, I think it's going to be tricky.
I was going to say on that, BJ, like one of the peripheral impacts of COVID has been questions over where to reschedule Melbourne sporting fixtures. We've already seen states doing battle over the AFL Grand Final. Now you've got a similar thing at the moment in relation to Boxing Day. Like, where do you sit on this? And I guess, like many others, do you feel any like slight dark enjoyment discussing temporary ownership of tightly held Melbourne sporting events?
Mate, I agree. I mean, I think the Boxing Day Test match will move to Perth, and I reckon it should move to Perth. If you can't get a crowd at the MCG, then what's the point of having the Boxing Day Test there? It sort of defeats the purpose. I mean, day 1, day 2 are the big days in sporting. In the sporting calendar around Australia. So if you can get a crowd in Perth to a West Coast Dockers game and the Derby and get nearly 30,000, I mean, I would be moving the Test match, the Boxing Day Test to Perth. I'd be moving the first Test, I think, will be in Adelaide, the second one in Perth, and maybe Brisbane for the third one, and then wait to see for Sydney. But I cannot see any reason why you'd be playing in Melbourne if you can't have crowds. So that's the first point. I think the Big Bash in December will start in Perth, and I think they should, just have a hub over there for 2 weeks and just bang the games out in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then maybe move to Brisbane and Adelaide and do it that way. I cannot see teams flying around and other sort of administrators flying around the country to do games. So I think they've got to lock it down, get those games out of the road in December, and then you can sort December out, and then you wait and see for January. But that's the way I think it's going to happen in December.